a new treaty has been signed by the members of the United Nations for the conservation or for the movement of the sustainability of the oceans or of the high seas. Hello and welcome to the In Focus series section of Drishti IAS. I am Aisha Singh, and in today's video we will be talking about that what is the High Seas Treaty that has been signed by the United Nations members. So let us first understand the timeline of the video. First we will be looking at what is the news, then what is high seas, or why do we call them high seas, then about its significance, and then what is UNCLOS, UNCLOS. Then what are the key provisions of the treaty and what are the other conventions related to seas other than high seas and UNCLOS. In the end, a prelims MCQ. This topic is of relevance from General Studies paper 3, which is conservation, and also from General Studies paper 2, that is international agreements. From exam perspective, from both prelims and mains, you should be able to know that what is high seas or what is its significance, then what is UNCLOS. And then from mains perspective, key provisions of the treaty and other conventions related to seas. So let's get started and see the news. The news has been taken from the Indian Express and it says the High Seas Treaty, key provisions and the challenges it faces. So what has happened recently is that the United Nations members have agreed on a High Seas Treaty to ensure the protection and sustainable use of the marine biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. So what happens is, first and foremost, we should be able to know that what is High Seas Treaty. So I will be explaining you all these aspects in the coming slide. So first you should be able to know that all the UN members have agreed on a High Seas Treaty. The objective of the High Seas Treaty is the protection and sustainable use of marine biodiversity of areas which is beyond national jurisdiction. It means that areas which does not come in the jurisdiction. Like for example, imagine this is India and this is the seas, if I talk about, or the oceans, and see, there is a particular limit to which there is national jurisdiction or to which India has its jurisdiction in seas. So imagine that this is the line on till which India has jurisdiction. I will be telling you about the exact how many nautical miles India has its jurisdiction. This is just for example for your understanding. This is India as a country and this is the line of seas. So there is a particular line or to a particular limit to which a country has its jurisdiction in seas. So for example, imagine this is the point till where India has its jurisdiction in seas. But the area after that jurisdiction, the national jurisdiction of a country where it ends, the area after that in the seas is what is called high seas. So the area in the seas where the national jurisdiction does not apply is what in layman's term called as a high seas. So whenever we say what is a high sea treaty, so high sea treaty is a treaty in seas where the national jurisdiction of any country does not imply, and the objective of this treaty is protection and sustainable use of marine biodiversity, because nowadays because of the climate change and global warming, the marine biodiversity is majorly at risk, and also the marine biodiversity which is majorly at risk. Then it was agreed during talks led by the United Nations during the Intergovernmental Conference on Marine Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction in New York, US. And the High Seas Treaty is yet to be formally adopted as the members are yet to ratify it. So formal adoption has not been done till now because the ratification has not been done by all the countries. Now let us look into the nitty-gritties of this High Seas Treaty. So first and foremost, what is high seas? So according to the Geneva Convention on the High Seas 1958, which talks about parts of the sea that are not included in the territorial waters or the internal waters of a country are known as the high seas. As I've already told you in the previous slide, that the sea which does not come under any country's jurisdiction is what comprises of high seas, and even the Geneva Convention on the High Seas 1958 says this. Then it is the area beyond a country's exclusive economic zone. So exclusive economic zone, every country has its own exclusive economic zone, and under this exclusive economic zone, the country, the national jurisdiction of the country is applied there, and the country has the rights to perform all the activities like fishing, oiling, etc. in that zone. So that zone is called exclusive economic zone, and the length of the exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles or 370 kilometers from the coastline of the nation. So like for example, imagine this is a country and this is the sea. So this is the coastline of the country. So from here till 200 nautical miles, like for example, this is the area. So this is the distance of 200 nautical miles. So this will be called the exclusive economic zone of a country, or you can say exclusive economic zone of India, until where a nation has jurisdiction over living and non-living resources. So the area which is after the exclusive economic zone, where the national jurisdiction will not apply, is what will comprise the high seas. Then no country is responsible for the management and protection of resources in the high seas. So if anyone says that is there any authority or any country which has its jurisdiction in the high seas, no, then there is no country. So no country has its jurisdiction. It means no country has the control over the high seas, or every country has its control till the exclusive economic zone. But after the exclusive economic zone starts the high seas, where the management or the authority of any country does not imply. Now let's talk about the significance of the High Seas Treaty. Then the Deep Ocean Stewardship Initiative talks about that high seas comprises 64% of the ocean surface. So all over the globe, 64% of the ocean surface is what high sea comprises of. Then 43% of the total earth. Then it is home to about 2.2 million marine species and up to 1 trillion different kind of microorganisms. Deep Ocean Stewardship Initiatives. So this is what is the significance of the high seas. This tells us that how important high seas are for us, because this comprises of a lot of area and it covers a lot of area, and majorly the marine biodiversity that comprises there, which actually plays a major role when it comes to maintaining the ecological balance in the society or in the ecosystem. So for the well-being and proper working of the ecosystem, the marine biodiversity, or the prevalence or the proper prevalence of the marine biodiversity is what is important to us. Then the objective of the high seas is that the ocean resources including biodiversity are utilized in a sustainable manner, so that we can pass on them to our future generations, and their benefits are shared equitably among countries. So that it is not that any one country is taking all the benefits and all the small and the vulnerable nations are not able to get the benefits of this high seas treaty, because sustainable marine biodiversity and sustainable manner and sustainably keeping the high seas treaty at proper level is very important. Then comes the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea, because it is the high seas treaty is signed under the UNCLOS. So the High Seas Treaty is the implementation part of the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea. So UNCLOS is a 1982 agreement and is almost universally accepted or ratified. Then it is defined the rights and duties of countries in the oceans, extent of ocean areas over which countries could claim sovereignty, and the legal status of marine resources. So when any country is at oceans or seas, what are the duties of that country and what are the rights of that country is what has been told by the UNCLOS. So it is a United Nations treaty, and it tells us that what are the duties and the responsibilities that a country has when they are in oceans. Then it is a set of general rules for activities in the oceans, including navigation, scientific research and deep sea mining. So what are the activities which takes place in the oceans is what comes under the UNCLOS. Then the treaty established exclusive economic zone ocean areas up to 200 nautical miles from the coastline. So the concept of exclusive economic zone also came under the UNCLOS. So this is an important point you to know, that from where the exclusive economic zone concept came up. Then, okay, let us look at this picture. This will actually tell you, and you will be able to know that how things work. Okay, see, this, imagine this is the coastline. So for the first 12 nautical miles, area from the coastline of any country is what is called the territorial sea. Okay, then the area of 24 nautical miles, first 12 nautical miles is what is called the territorial sea. Then from the coastline till 24 nautical miles is what is called the contiguous sea or the contiguous zone. Then from the coastline up to the area of 200 nautical miles is what is called the exclusive economic zone. So whenever there is a continental shelf or whenever there is a coastline of a country, then after that coastline exactly does not start the high seas. So first, for the 12 nautical miles, it is the territorial sea. It means that country, the territory of that country is there. Then till the 24 nautical miles is the contiguous zone, and then till the 200 nautical mile is the exclusive economic zone. And after this 200 nautical miles, what starts? The high seas. So this picture, if you are understanding, will give a clarity to you. So there is territorial sea 12 nautical miles, then there is contiguous zone 24 nautical miles, then there is exclusive economic zone 200 nautical mile, and after that what starts is the high seas. Now let us talk about the key provisions of the treaty or the key provisions of the high seas treaty. First and foremost is the demarcation of marine protected areas, rather like there are protected forest or wildlife areas. So we need to have protected areas in the high seas treaty, because the areas which are vulnerable and the areas which are majorly affected by the climate change and the global warming, we need to protect that area in the high seas, and that is why demarcation of marine protected areas is very important, so that we can protect them. Then sustainable use of marine genetic resources and equitable sharing of benefits arising from them. So we get a lot of things from the marine biodiversity, and especially when it comes to the sustainability of the ecosystem or maintaining the ecological balance. So it is that whatever benefits one gets from these genetic resources, equitable sharing should be done among all. Then initiation of the practice of environmental impact assessment for all major activities in the oceans. So what is happening nowadays is whatever activities that are being done in the high seas, be it the human activities or the oiling, fishing, drilling, so the environmental impact assessment has to be done, that what impact it is going to have on the environment. If any kind of negative impact would have by these activities, then those activities should be stopped. Then last is capacity building and technology transfer, so that in the future, in the coming times, in the future, majority of the things can be taken care of easily. Then comes the other conventions related to seas other than the High Seas Treaty. Then comes the London Convention 1972. It talks about the effective control of all sources of marine pollution and prevent pollution of the sea by dumping of waste. So marine pollution and dumping of waste should not be done. This is what the London Convention talks about. Then comes the Marpol Convention 1973. It also talks about pollution of the marine ecosystem by ships from operational or accidental causes. And this pollution is on a rise, because nowadays if we see that a lot many ships are, when they are not able to work properly or they get damaged, then the oil which comes out of these ships is what causes a lot of damage to the sea. Then Convention on Continental Shelf 1964. This defines and delimits the rights of states to explore and exploit the natural resources of the continental shelf, because the natural resources and their exploration of these natural resources is very important. So these are few of the conventions. In the end, it's time for the prelims MCQ, and you people need to tell me the answer in the comment section. And this says, consider the following statements. First, high seas are areas beyond a country's exclusive economic zone. Then India is a member of the UNCLOS. Read about this. You should be able to know this. This is a very important point. And You should be able to know this. This is a very basic point also. Then high seas comprise 90% of the ocean surface. You have to tell about the incorrect statement, and the question and the codes are 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading and keep writing.